Hello everyone. Thank you for joining the free OpManager training. Before we proceed further, I would like to know if you're able to see the presentation and hear me clearly. Please comment yes on the webinar chat panel to acknowledge it. I will wait for a couple of seconds to get few acknowledgements. I received few acknowledgements. Thanks for that. To start off, let me introduce myself. My name is Savi, working as a technical consultant on ITOM products for nearly half a decade. In my experience, I have worked with many enterprise organizations all over the globe in solving their network and infrastructure related issues, suggesting and deploying products that meet their monitoring requirements. I simply make the network administrators' life easier. About the training, OpManager online webinar is divided into 4 parts. The first part happened on April 3rd. The second part is happening now. Today we will discuss on observing and analyzing the key performance metrics of the devices in OpManager. The third part is about keeping an eye on the network performance metrics and mapping functionalities available in OpManager, which is scheduled on April 17th. And finally, the fourth part, which is on fault management and self-executing functionalities available on OpManager, which is scheduled on April 24th. The training will be hosted on a couple of time zones, which is 6:30 a.m. GMT and 11:30 a.m. Eastern. Please use the link that you see on the bottom of the screen to register for the next schedule and grab your seat. The presentation will be sent to you via email in next 24 hours, and the webinar video will be uploaded in our YouTube channel called OpManager Tech Videos. You may use it for future references or even share it to your peers who missed to attend the webinar. I would like to take this moment to thank the attendees who have joined the webinar despite of your busy schedules. I'm really overwhelmed by the huge response of this webinar. On this course of session, if you have any queries, please type it on the chat panel. I have experienced panelists besides me who are eagerly waiting to address it. So please post a lot of questions and keep them busy. Today's heading is on monitoring server performance. We will be discussing on what are the key performance metrics we can monitor with the help of OpManager. Today's agenda would be monitoring availability, monitoring the server performance metrics like memory, CPU usage, and more, followed by the virtual server performance and the storage server performance, and what are the URLs that we can monitor with the help of OpManager and how do we monitor them. Finally, the files and folder monitor. How do we monitor a specific file or a folder using OpManager? And how do we get notified in case a threshold value or a certain event occurs? And finally, we are going to end the session with monitoring scripts. Now about the protocols. OpManager is purely an agentless monitoring solution. Instead, we monitor the devices using protocols. These are some of the protocols that are used by OpManager for monitoring the various aspects of a devices. Availability, response time, and packet loss is measured using ICMP and TCP protocol. OpManager offers multiple levels of severities, namely attention, trouble, and critical for taking corrective actions accordingly. The status of the device will be sorted in any one of these severity levels based on the polling results. That is, when the device is down for the first poll from OpManager, the device will be marked as attention. And when the device is down for 3 consecutive polls, the device will be marked as trouble. And finally, the device status will be marked as critical when the device is not responding for 5 consecutive polls by OpManager. The device status will automatically change according to the number of missed polls. OpManager primarily uses SNMP protocol for monitoring the device health and performance, which also pulls out all the interface availability along with utilization, error, and discard rate for each interfaces. For monitoring the status of a service, we use TCP port check for measuring the service status. Similarly, for Windows NT services, we use WMA protocol for measuring the Windows services. We use protocols like WMI, SNMP, SSH, and Telnet for monitoring the various devices, and the protocol vary according to the operating system of the devices. We can monitor a file or a folder's existence, size, and modification status with the help of WMI protocol. For monitoring the URL's availability and response, we use protocols like HTTP and HTTPS for measuring them. So this is a quick overview of the list of protocols that are used by OpManager for monitoring various aspects of the device. Monitoring device availability. OpManager provides comprehensive network uptime monitoring to ensure that all your network devices are up and running 24/7 continuously. As I told you earlier, availability, response time, and packet loss are monitored with the help of ICMP or TCP port check. Once you add the devices in OpManager, OpManager will ping these devices and capture these information and store it in the database. And not only that, if you have a requirement of getting notified whenever a device is down or whenever a device is not responding for a couple of volts, so what would be the traditional action that you would be taking? So you open the command prompt, type the ping command, and check for the response. But in OpManager, you can configure threshold values for parameters like packet loss, response time, and get alerted whenever the device exceeds the threshold limit. Isn't it cool? Configuring threshold values enables OpManager to proactively monitor the networking devices and raise alert before they go down or reach the critical condition. So most of the catastrophic failure can be avoided with the help of OpManager. And finally, configuring uplink dependency. For instance, many devices will be connected to a switch. If the switch goes down, all the devices connected will be not reachable. In this case, it is unnecessary to check the status of the dependent devices of that switch. The status polling for a device can be controlled based on its dependency on some other devices. This prevents unnecessary status check made to dependent nodes. OpManager stops monitoring the devices if the dependent device is down. Configuring dependent devices prevents false alarm. Now let's see how we can achieve these requirements with the help of OpManager UI. So this is OpManager UI. Now to start off with, how to configure threshold values for parameters like packet loss. So let me take a desktop for an example. So all you have to do is you have to click on the desktop, navigate to the snapshot page of the device. And here you have the feasibility of defining threshold values. So you can define threshold values for parameters like packet loss and availability. So here you have 4 levels of severity. You can select the condition for attention, trouble, critical, and also the rearm value. So alert is raised if the monitored value is being violated. You also have to enter the rearm value. So the rearm value determines the monitor has restored to a normal condition. For instance, the warning threshold contains for a packet loss monitor, which is selected as greater than 70. Now the monitored value of the device is 80. Now alert is raised and the monitor is in violated condition. At the next poll, the monitored value is 62. An alert for returning to normal condition is generated. At the next poll again, the monitored value goes to 80. Again, a threshold value is being violated. So defining a value for a rearm condition or a criteria lets you notify whenever the device restores a normal condition or whenever the device violates a normal condition. Now defining the uplink dependency. As I told you earlier, you have the feasibility of defining the dependent devices in OpManager so that whenever the core device is not reachable, the dependent device's status will not be monitored. So to set the dependent devices, so we have to quickly go here on the device summary. You just have to check if the dependent device is set or not. If not, you can navigate to edit device details and uplink dependency. So it's simple as that. All you have to do is define the IP address of a device which are being dependent. so that whenever a dependent device is not available, it will be marked over here. So the dependent device is unavailable is marked with yellow color. So you will see a big stretch of yellow color whenever the dependent device is not available. And this is for a single device setting. You can also do that from a basic setting over here, quick configuration wizard, and the dependent devices. So here you can set the dependent devices for multiple on a single click. So now let's go back to the slides and see what are the exciting features that OpManager offers next. Availability statistics. Availability of a device is marked with multiple colors like green when the device is up and red when the device is down. When the device is being not monitored, it is marked in blue color. And when the device is unmanaged, the device is marked in pink color. In OpManager, you can define if certain devices are on maintenance. The devices are not available when polled for a status during a maintenance time period. Unnecessary alarms are fired. To prevent the devices from being monitored for a status during maintenance time, you can schedule a maintenance task for such devices. So when the maintenance is scheduled, the device during the maintenance time period will be marked in gray color. When the dependent devices are not available, as I told you earlier, the device availability status will be marked in yellow color. The outage history will let you mark the reason why the device was not available. So as a network admin, you can make a corresponding reason to it for recording purposes. So let's say you have a crucial device on your network and for some maintenance purposes, the device is down. As a network engineer, you are supposed to be aware about the reason for it, isn't it? So traditionally, you record a sheet or a page where you note down why is the maintenance being scheduled. So in OpManager, you have the feasibility of defining the reason for the same. So now let's see how can we achieve the help of OpManager. So simple as that. Again, navigate to inventory. I'm more focused on the desktops. So let me click on a desktop. There you go. So you hit on the availability chart over here, which gives you information on when the device was available, when the device is not, and what is the total time period. And as we told you earlier, the data of each monitored devices are saved in the database permanently. So this gives you the leverage of taking a report for any timeline. So I'm just going to pick up a quick report for last 30 days, which will give me a history of device down status. And also for the outages time period, I can define a reason for here and save it. So whenever my next network engineer logs in to check why is the device down, he can simply get it from the OpManager UI itself and not come back to you for the same. And for device down alarm or the maintenance time, you have the feasibility of configuring the downtime scheduler. So this will give you information or the feasibility of configuring the downtime alerts. So whenever the device is not available, you can simply schedule the downtime alarm so that OpManager will not notify you whenever the device is down. So simple as that. You just have to define the name for the scheduler, from when to when the device is being down or the maintenance being scheduled for what are the devices. So all you have to do is you have to just select all of them and move it to them and save it. So during the maintenance time or the downtime schedule time, OpManager will not monitor it. So now back to the slides. Monitoring service availability. Windows NT services. Certain applications in Windows Mission run in background as a service. OpManager discovers and monitors the status of such services using protocol called WMI. OpManager generates alarms whenever they fail. You also have the option to either automatically restart a service whenever a service goes down or automatically restart the server itself whenever the service is down. And you also have the feasibility of selecting a checkbox and appropriate radio buttons for the same as well. And similarly, for TCP service, OpManager provides out-of-the-box support for monitoring services like web app, HTTPS, HTTP, FTP, IMAP, LDAP, and more. You can configure new services that are not available in the list. OpManager can manage or monitor the services running on the standard TCP ports. You can also instruct OpManager to discover the services when a new device is being added in OpManager. So now let's see how to monitor a service, a Windows NT service and a normal service with the help of OpManager. So let me go back to a device. Under the Monitors tab, I have the Windows Service Monitors. So here I have added already a HID monitor services. To add more, I just have to click the plus icon and hit Add Monitor. So it's a huge list. This will give me a complete information of what are the monitors that I'm planning to monitor, and all you have to do is hit Add. And besides, as I told you earlier, you have the feasibility of defining and predefined action. So whenever the service is down or not responding, you can instruct OpManager to restart the service on certain cases. On crucial cases, you can even instruct the OpManager to restart the server itself. So these are the actions that you can take for a Windows services. And for normal service patterns, you have the feasibility of defining the threshold values for the availability. And besides that, and the response time, you can also even add more services. So if you know the service name and the port number, you can even input those information over here. And also, as I told you earlier, whenever discovering the devices, you can instruct OpManager to add these service monitors to monitor them. Monitor the process availability. OpManager provides out-of-the-box support for monitoring the availability of all processes running on a Windows or Unix systems. Windows system uses WMI and Unix system uses CLI to monitor the process that are running on a system. OpManager will even notify you if the process goes up or down. You can monitor the system resources like CPU, memory, and instances count utilized by each processes. Once a resource, CPU or memory or even anything, utilized by a process exceeds a configured threshold value, an alert is triggered. Process template. Process template concept allows you to discover, manage, and even set threshold values easily across multiple servers from a single window. You can also configure individual process threshold values from the individual device snapshot page. So to see how to set a threshold for a process monitor, simply have to navigate to inventory, click on the device, come to the monitors tab, and hit the process tab over here. So under the process monitor tab, you have the feasibility of defining the threshold values for resources like CPU, memory, and instance count. You can even define the condition for the same as well and define the ream value. To associate more processes, you just have to click plus icon and hit associate monitor. If you don't find enough associate monitor, all you have to do is you have to navigate to settings, monitoring, and process monitor. So here you have the feasibility of defining or adding more process templates, and that can be associated to all the devices. So you just have to select the devices and the protocol and the credential, which will list you down all the processes that are running on the server. And then you can simply monitor it and associate it. Monitoring server performance. OpManager monitors the system resources using SNMP by default. However, in the absence of SNMP on the devices, the non-SNMP Windows devices can be monitored using WMA protocol as well. All the Windows device templates have the resource monitors pre-configured. You can monitor performance metrics regarding disk, CPU, memory, and more. In OpManager, we have nearly 2,000 performance metrics that are available. So to have a quick glimpse of what are the performance monitors that are available, to navigate to settings, monitoring, and performance monitor. So this is a huge list of performance monitors that are available where you can simply associate or even add a monitor to it. So it gives you information on what are the monitors that are being monitored with the help of SNMP or WMI or even more. And if you want to add a new monitor, a performance monitor, you have to simply click add monitor icon and select the device name, choose the OID or check it from the MIB file, and then define the criteria so that you can simply associate a performance monitor in OpManager as well. So if I want to take a quick report of all the performance monitors of Microsoft, all I have to do is type Microsoft in the vendor tab, which will list me down all the performance monitors that can be monitored with the help of double limit protocol. And as I told you, you can even configure it globally over here and associate it to all the devices on the rest of the page. Reports. OpManager stores all the monitored network and device health information permanently in the database. The report section has a number of flexible options that help you to create customizable and actionable reports quickly. Reports can be exported and saved as PDF or XLS file format. Server Health Report will give you an in-depth information about the server status and the resources being utilized for a device. And similarly, a disk forecast by usage. It helps you to get the forecast, the capacity utilized based on the historical trend. It also helps you to get automated reports on storage so that you can plan your storage spend judiciously. OpManager predicts how to manage the storage on an organization, which will require enough disk space that can be purchased to meet the needs of user and application. So to have a quick report or a glimpse of the report, you just have to navigate to report section where we have 100 plus report templates that will be listed down over here. So you can click on any one of the report template to have a quick glimpse of the data of. So this is a quick glimpse of the server report. And the disk forecast by usage report. So this is a disk forecast by usage report that gives you information on the device name, the partition, and the disk that is being used. So what is a percentage? So even you have the feasibility of editing that report template, and you can export the report in PDF or CSV file format, and even send a quick email about the report on a scheduled time. Monitor virtual server performance. OpManager monitors your VMware, Hyper-V, and Xen environments performance. All the discovered hosts and VMs are mapped under Virtualization tab in the Inventory section. It provides an exclusive monitoring dashboard for each ESX server, showing the critical resources such as CPU ready time, wait time, memory balloon, network, and disk for each guest VM instance on ESX server. The hardware metrics. OpManager helps you to monitor the hardware health of key device performance such as temperature, voltage, power, fan speed, status of a processor, disk arrays of VMware for devices like HP, Dell, and Cisco systems, and get alerted if the violated predefined threshold values. OpManager uses SNMP to monitor and collect the hardware health status of servers, routers, and switches. In case of VMware, the vSphere API is used to collect the sensor data. The hardware health monitor are associated automatically whenever you add a device with the proper SNMP credential. So hardware health will be disabled by default. So to enable it, you have to navigate to settings, system settings, and hardware monitor. So here you have to define enable hardware monitor for all the devices, and you can even define the monitoring interval second over here. Hardware reports. Intuitive detailed reports help you to determine the performance of your network in a very less time. OpManager allows you to export the default reports to other file formats such as exporting to PDF or XLS file format. We can also schedule the report to be emailed or published. The Virtual Server Report tab. It will give you information on in-depth information about the data like ideal VM time over or under allocated resources like CPU or memory for each VM or virtual machine. VM Sprawl Dashboard. The dashboard customization feature in OpManager helps you to create your own dashboard and view desired performance metrics and reports at a glance. Now, when a user can create and share dashboards with other users as well, the VM sprawl dashboard brings all the information about the idle VMs by or under allocated. So to view that, you just have to navigate to the dashboard section, virtualization, and VM sprawl. So here you will have information about what are the over allocated or under allocated resources for each VM virtual machine, or what are the idle VMs or virtual machines in your vCenter or Hyper-V. And added to that, OpManager also helps you to have a quick pictorial representation of the connectivity or the resources that are being mapped for each virtual machine. So as soon as you add the vCenter in OpManager, so OpManager will plot an exact diagram of what are the connections between each virtual machine and each host, and what are the data stores that are allocated to it. So this will give you an pictorial representation idea of the connectivity. And added to that, you also have the connections check over here. So if you're more focused on the connectivity between each host to all the VMs, you can just select that. Also, it will give you information on the connectivity between host to data stores and host to network. So this is how OpManager can draw a pictorial representation of how your network is configured. Monitoring the storage server performance. OpManager helps you to efficiently monitor and manage all your storage devices with the help of storage monitoring add-on. Monitor your RAID and tape libraries, and you can get the forecast on usage of storage spaces, and you can also manage your FC switches proactively with the help of OpManager. So we introduced storage monitoring in the latest release. We are in the initial stage, so we support a handful of vendors. So under RAID arrays, we do support vendors like IBM, HP, Dell, Bosch, Hitachi, and Storage Tech, and more. So under SANs, we do support vendors like Brocade, HP, QLogic, and finally under tape libraries, we do support the vendors like HP, Dell, IBM, Qualstar, and finally Qualcomm. Protocols that are used. OpManager uses SNMP, CLI, SMIS, and vendor-specific APIs to discover the storage devices in your network. Storage reports. OpManager helps you to get a crucial insight on the performance of your network storage using intuitive reports. Reports help you with the both real-time monitoring and historical stat analysis of your network. So to add a storage device in OpManager, you simply have to navigate to Settings, Discovery, and Add Storage Device. So here you have the feasibility of defining the IP address of the storage device. Select the device type and select the model. Once they have been selected, you also have to define the threshold, the credential profile as well. So as soon as you select the credential, select device type, OpManager lets you identify what is the credential profile that is necessary for monitoring this device. So for this tape library, you do have to define the SNMP protocol over here to monitor it. Once you define all these information and discover, the device will be automatically added and OpManager will resume monitoring the devices like any other normal device. Monitoring website URLs. You can monitor availability and health of all your public websites as well as your web-based applications running in your intranet. OpManager checks URLs to ensure that they are reachable and serving pages, which is more reliable way of monitoring the websites. You can monitor global URLs such as yahoo.com, manageengine.com, or URLs in a server, such as a URL called http://192.168.4.11 or index.html or web page and so on. You can get the details about the URL response time and availability in the URL snapshot page and also configure threshold values for the same. Configure match content helps you to instantly verify the correctness of the given details. OpManager will compare the text that you define in the content field with the monitored web pages. If your LAN is proxy enabled, you may have to define the proxy server details in OpManager to monitor the URLs over intranet. OpManager will access the URL through the proxy server configured in your network. So let's see how to define a URL monitor and how to define a proxy server settings in help of OpManager. You can define URL monitor globally or specific to each devices. To do globally, navigate to Settings, Monitoring, and URL monitoring or URLs. You have to define the monitor name over here. You click Add. You have to define the monitor name. And you have to type in the URL over here. Now you have to enter the monitoring interval and the value timer in the respective fields. So I would like to monitor this URL every 3 minutes and the time of second is 10. So I can also have the feasibility of defining when should I get notified. Should I get notified immediately if the URL is not available for one port, or I can compromise for 2 ports. And here I should define what is a match text. So here you have the feasibility of selecting between get and post, the methods for any HTTP or HTTPS based URLs. You have to type the request parameter and their values over here. You can even configure the username and the password for authorization. So in some websites, if any website is asking for a username or a password, this will be replaced over here. And finally, you also have to enter the proxy server name, port number in which the web service is running on the proxy server, and the username and the password for it. So I have predefinedly added few URL monitors, which will give me information on what is the availability of the URL and what is the response time. And even I can navigate to that URL over here from here. To define the proxy server setting, you have to navigate to Settings, Proxy Server Setting, click Enable, and define the server name or IP address with the port number, finally the username and the password. File and folder monitoring. OpManager provides file and folder monitoring functionality with the help of WMA protocol. OpManager lets you to monitor both the local and the remote files and folders as well. OpManager monitors these files and folders and alerts you straight away if it finds any deviation from the expected behavior by setting threshold values for various parameters like size, age, modification, existence, and also check if it contains a specified string or not. Especially in folder monitor, all the files are monitored in specific location. You have the feasibility of defining criteria that will allow you to monitor only the specified file type. Perform automatic checks to trigger alerts when the changes occurs. You can be notified if a specific change occurs. For instance, you might want to be notified if the folder size increases beyond a defined limit, if some files in a folder are missing, etc. So these are some of the cases where you might get notified for a file or folder monitor. You can even configure meaningful templates in OpManager and apply it to all the servers or desktops in order to associate them. Now let's see how to define a file or a folder monitor. So to define a template over here, you can navigate to Settings, Monitor, File or Folder Monitor, where you have to define add the file path, the monitoring interval, the protocol. And when you look closely over here, you can even look for a file, a specific string in a file. So let's say I'm a server administrator and I wish to get notified whenever there is an exception occurring in a MS SQL log file. So what I would do is I would just define look for this certain string called null exception in this specified file type, so that whenever this occurs, I will get immediately notified for the same. And similarly, you can get notified for file existence. If the file is not available, you can get notified for it, and file size increases or decreases, and even for file age or if anyone tries to modify the file. So these are the templates that you can create for a file monitor. And whatever you just saw for a file monitor, everything applies for a folder monitor as well. You can get notified for folder existence, folder size, and modification. And even if anyone tries to change the name of a folder, or if the size or a file size increases, or the total number of files in the specified folder changes, you can get notified for the same. So here you have to define all the templates, and then you can simply associate it to the devices or even monitor it or create a device specific template for each of them. So to create a device specific file or folder monitor, you have to navigate to setting device, click on monitors tab, go to the file monitor tab, click add, and here you can monitor them. So finally, if we are at the script monitoring tab, script monitoring provides great flexibility with the help of OpManager. When a network administrator prefers using custom scripts to retrieve data specific to their needs, OpManager will help you with the same. It also helps you to fetch or monitor a performance metrics of the devices that is not possible using by a standard SNMP or WMA protocol. OpManager script monitoring supports any script language that runs on shell or prompt. Say for instance, some of the most famous scripts like PowerShell, Linux shell script, VB script, Perl and Python scripts are supported. So you can now manage Windows, Linux, or any other network monitoring with the help of scripts in OpManager. You also have the feasibility of exporting the scripts or inputting any scripts from or into OpManager. We have an active forum where our customers and our technical team are eagerly engaged in script monitoring discussions. Below is the link to access the forum. You may post any queries regarding the scripts over here so that our technical team will get engaged with you and define the same. To define a script monitor, all you have to do is you have to navigate to Settings, Monitoring, and Script Monitor. So these are the by default script templates that are available, where you can simply click on any script to check what is the script all about and what are the commands that are used in monitoring the monitoring interval. You can even test the script and export the script to in an XML file so that you can import the script in any other OpManager installation. Or else you have the feasibility of defining the script over here, check for a script, and simply run the same. And besides that, you also have the feasibility of defining the threshold values and the timeout seconds. I am excited to announce that Manage Engine's user conference is held on April 24th, Wednesday, to April 26th, Friday at Sheraton Dallas Hotel in USA. It's a 3-day event with remarkable information about the industry trends, new features rolled out, and what's cooking. You will also get information on our products, and you can have one-on-one session or live demos of all the products in the Manage Engine. Please register to grab your seat for the same. So finally, we are at the end of the session where we discussed about script monitoring, file and folder monitoring in OpManager, and what are the protocols that are used by OpManager for monitoring various aspects of a network, and how do we monitor a Windows service or a normal service, and what are the actions that can be taken on the same. With that saying, I would like to end the session today. Thank you for your patience throughout the session. I hope you have a lot of questions. And I have Mr. Shrikant besides me to answer all your technical questions. Thank you, gentlemen. I will put on Mr. Shrikant for now.
Thank you, Savi. Hello, everyone. My name is Shrikant, and I'm one of the product expert from the OpManager and one of the panelists for today's webinar. I hope the session was informative, and we do have received few questions, out of which we'll be discussing some of them. So let's get started with our first question. What constitutes a license for a monitored device? A physical server, or a vCenter, or a virtual host, or a virtual machine? Whenever an IP address is being managed in OpManager, it will take a license count. Either it can be a physical server, or in case of a vCenter, along with the vCenter, the virtual host and the virtual machines available under that vCenter will also take an individual IP address and will take account of license. So with this, we'll move on to our next question. I have enabled WMI and the credential is passing, but why the interfaces of server not showing? So as far as the interfaces monitoring is concerned in the OpManager, we require the SNMP protocol because OpManager completely relies on the response of the SNMP OIDs if MIB to fetch the interfaces details. So if you have configured the SNMP for your corresponding device, then you shall be able to monitor the interfaces. And rest of the details you shall be able to fetch it using the WMI protocol. So the next question we have is how to add a custom WMI monitor. In OpManager, you can add the WMI monitor from two places. That is either from the device summary page. If it's for individual device, you can simply go to the any device. Let me just quickly take you to a device. Okay, let's take one server. You can switch to the monitors tab. Under the monitors tab, you do have the performance monitor where you can click on add and click on the WMI monitor. This will allow you to create a custom WMI monitor, and apart from that, you can also add the monitor globally under the settings, monitoring, performance monitor. Click on add monitor. You can switch to the WMI tab and select the respective device and the credentials, and you shall be able to create the custom WMI monitor. So the next question we have here is, can I perform actions like restarting a virtual machine from OpManager console? Yes, we can do that. Let me just quickly take you to the UI and I shall be able to show you how it's done. For that, we need to go to the virtualization tab where you'll have the list of virtual machines. Click on the VMwares. Choose any particular VM. You have a more icon on the right hand side corner. You can click on that. And under the task, you do have the certain options available for this VM, where you have an option of power off, power on, reset, reboot, guest OS. So with this option, you can perform a restart of your virtual machine. With this, we'll move on to our next question, that is there a way to set the device response time threshold globally for all my devices? Yes, of course, we can do that. In order to perform that task, you need to go to the settings, click configuration, quick configuration wizard, where you have a threshold settings. Under the threshold settings, you need to switch to the tab to the where it says availability monitors. Under the availability monitors, you have response time and you can configure the thresholds. And once you have configured the threshold, say for example, we take 10, we jump to the 5. You can select the number of devices which is applicable for, like, it's a global configuration, so you can sort it based on the category, or you can just drag and drop the available devices that you would like to perform the threshold configuration and save it. So this will apply the threshold configuration for all the devices globally or the multiple devices as per your convenience. So the next question we have here is, what protocol is recommended for monitoring a Windows server, WMI or SNMP? It's recommended to use the WMI because using the WMI you shall be able to fetch almost all the details. For example, the performance parameters like CPU utilization, memory utilization. Apart from that, the installed softwares, active process details. But the only advantage you'll have with the SNMP is you can use the SNMP to fetch the interfaces or the custom monitors in case if you are creating any custom monitors for your servers, then we'll require the SNMP protocol. And for monitoring the interfaces also, you'll require the SNMP protocol. Apart from that, you can go with the WMI, which can also do all the other tasks which that SNMP can do. So with this, we'll move on to our next question, that is, what applications can be monitored using OpManager? By default, OpManager does support certain application monitoring. For that, you can go to the settings. Under the monitorings, you can switch to the application monitors, where we have different type of application monitors such as Active Directory, SQL monitoring, and different versions of Exchange Server monitoring. So we have default, and you can just apply the configuration based on the configuration that you made here, and you can apply to the devices that's available. So those are the questions that we had for the day. And in case if you have missed any part of the webinar session, will be uploading our webinar video in our YouTube channel. And this is the link for your OpManager help document page. And this is the link for the technical community where you can post your questions and our product experts will be able to answer your questions. And this is the email address to reach the OpManager support to for your in case of any technical queries or assistance that you seek from regarding the application. And this is the direct dial number. You can reach the OpManager support over the phone. So the next training schedule we have is on monitoring the network performance, which is happening on 17th April at 11:30 a.m. EDT. I request everyone to join the webinar session that's happening on 17th April to know more about the network performance monitoring. Thank you so much for your wonderful time. Have a great day. Bye-bye.